Hi, I'm Greta,
Hi, I'm Millie,
and you're listening to the Books We Meet in the Library.
a bookish podcast about reading and the book community.
Millie, what are you currently reading?
So, I am currently not reading anything, but we're starting a new month. And so, I'll talk to you guys about the first book that I'm going to start tomorrow, probably.
Okay.
And that is actually 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater. It's a
Mm.
sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And spoiler alert, it's a sequel to something we're going to be talking about pretty soon.
Okay, so this is your second time reading the book we're talking about today, right?
Yes, but I never really continued on with the trilogy. And it's one of those
Okay.
like companion trilogies where it's like you don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to continue, but if
Mm-hmm.
you do, it has like other characters from the same universe. So yeah, I'm actually going to go ahead and see if I can finish book two and book three for that.
Oh, I love that for you. Okay, can we talk about the fact that you're not reading anything right now? Is that a choice, or are you just like just haven't picked anything up?
Oh, that's okay. Kind of two things. Like
Okay.
logistically speaking, I finished the book on Friday and it's now the
Okay.
weekend. And since I
Okay.
knew my weekend was going to be jam packed, I was like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to pick anything up. I'll just wait till Monday to pick
Fair.
up a new book.
Fair.
But
Fair.
I have been going through a reading slump.
Can we talk about that real quick?
We can, because I've never had this kind of reading slump before. This is a
Okay.
first. This is a first
Okay.
for me. Um,
Discuss.
okay. In the past, when I've had reading slumps, it's either
Mhm.
been like I've burned out from the same genre, or
Mhm.
I've just been like reading too many books at the same time and I'm just
Mhm.
literally just burned out from reading. And I
Mhm.
just need to take a break, watch some trashy reality TV shows, some more Netflix dating universe, and then like I'll get back into the scene. However, this reading slump, I want to read. I want to read so badly. But all the books that I've been picking up in the last 6 weeks have been either low rated, I want to DNF them, or I had like high expectations they were going to be 5 stars and they're just 3 stars. So I'm like disappointed by the books that I've been picking up. And so I just kind of feel like I'm in a slump because I'm like, I just need a 5 star. Give me a 5 star. And a 5 star that's not a reread, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the opposite problem, I think,
Oh
with
no.
my reading slump. My reading slump, well, it's not the opposite problem because I haven't been hitting 5 stars. Like, it's been a little bit rough this year. I'm not gonna lie. It's been actually really rough this year. The, like, old reliables are not hitting the way that they should be hitting, which is, like, horrifying. But, I just have been in like a I can't get myself to become invested in a story reading slump where I will
Mm.
pick up something and I'll be like, okay, I'm reading, and then my brain will just like like it'll just like escape out, and then I'm like, wait, I have to like refocus, like come back into it. And it has been like this for the last 2 months. Like I told
Ooh.
Millie before we got into this podcast recording, I was like, this book is going to be so rough for me because one, it took me forever to get through it. And
Mhm.
two, I finished it last night and I was like, it feels like I've studied the night before like the final and it's now time to take the quiz. And I'm like, what the hell did I just read? Like, and it's so bad because like I'm not really interested in music right now either. So I've just been like listening to like podcasts, but even the podcasts, I don't know, maybe I just need silence or maybe I just need, I don't know, another Emily Henry, and not Emily Henry, another Allie Hazelwood book to get me out of a slump. Maybe,
Mhm.
perhaps. I need to
I
pick
feel
up a
it. The
new one.
books are just not hitting that well. So I'm hoping the summer will be better to us and we just
Yeah.
pick up things that are like low stakes, guilty pleasures, and we just,
Yeah.
even if it's not like a 5 star, it's at least like an enjoyable read.
No, for sure. I'm actually going to I think I'm going to set my current read, which is The Unworthy by Agustina Bastarrica. I think I'm going to set that aside for a little bit and I am going to pick up a like fluffy romance or something, the new Allie Hazelwood, just so that I can have like I don't know, something to
Like a reset.
reliably, yeah, like reliably, like can like reset my brain, and hopefully it like does something for me because I need to feel something when it comes to books because I have not been feeling anything. It's been it's been sad, which leads me to today. Millie's like, "Oh no, this is gonna be interesting."
I know. Okay, because I nominated this book because it was in
Hmm.
my top 5 favorite books from 2024.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's I wouldn't say it's a cozy romantasy because
I think
it,
it is.
I mean, it kind of is, but it doesn't feel like typical cozy romantasies that I've read. But I really love this book. I really love the writing and the romance of this
Hmm.
book, and I think it's also one of those like really easy fantasy readers for your like newish or beginner level fantasy
Yeah.
readers. And so I thought like, okay, I think
What
that
are you
she'll
trying to
like this
say?
one. I'm trying to say that I don't know if you can continue on with the Wolf of Warren Yarrow series.
Not in this state I can't. Not in this mental state I can't. I literally I it feels like the world's like falling apart and I'm just trying
Mhm.
to like I'm trying to escape, but the escape isn't escaping properly. So I'm
I like
just
how
like
we're pretending that we're not, getting ready for World War III. Okay.
what are we
So,
talking about today, Billy?
oh my god. Okay, so I nominated Half a Soul by Olivia
Mhm.
Atwater. So this one I'm so excited because it's always pitched as Bridgerton meets Howl's Moving Castle because it
Mhm.
is set in this Regency historical era,
Mhm.
has a
Mhm.
lot to do with meddling mothers trying to get their youngsters to commit to each other in high society, and there's some fairies and like some light magical whimsy to it. So I honestly think it's a really good mix of the two and a really good comparison. So yeah, let's see how that goes. All right, before we go into it, we are gonna be discussing our star ratings for this book. So we're using the Call Pal rating system created by G from Book Roast. It has 7 different categories. We rate
Mhm.
them from 1 through 10, average it out, and we get our star rating. We got character, atmosphere, writing, plot, intrigue, logic, enjoyment. Ooh. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. So, Greta, what did you give it for character?
I actually decided to not rate this book. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You're
I was about to be like, bitch.
your face. You were like
I was like, the episode is canceled.
okay, okay. So for character, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
No one's
For
surprised.
no, no one is surprised. For atmosphere, what did you give it?
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay, so far we're doing good. Yay. All right, for writing, what did you give it?
I gave it a 9 out of 10, but it really should be a 10 out of 10.
I gave it a 10 out
Hmm.
of 10.
Hmm.
All right,
Hmm.
for plot, what did you give it?
For plot, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, for plot, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Hmm.
For intrigue, what did you give it?
I gave it a 6 out of 10. Okay, okay.
Be
We'll
still, my
go
heart, be still.
we'll go through these ratings and then I will stand at the tribunal and justify my ratings.
Well, I mean, I gave it an 8 out of 10, so that's like
Okay.
my lowest
Your low
rating
score.
category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, for logic, what did you give it?
For logic, I gave it a 6 out of 10. But again, I will defend my stance once we're done because it's, I feel like I didn't give this book a fair shot. Let's just say that.
Okay. So for me, logic was also pretty hard because when it comes to like more whimsical low fantasies that don't really have a
Mm-hmm.
set system, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this just works because the magic says so, and you just have to kind of
Yeah.
go along with it. But
Yeah.
when it comes to that, I felt like the book was at least consistent with its
Okay.
abstract. So for that
Mm.
reason, I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay, but yet you gave Bunny like a 2 out of 10 for logic. That's fine. I see
That
you.
was an acid trip that I didn't consent to go on.
I feel like if it's magic, you're like, yeah, it's fine. She's not biased at all. But also I honestly feel like that could apply because you've been already so exposed to like so many types of magic that maybe
Mm-hmm.
your head, like in your brain, your head canon just like pieces it together for it to work out. Meanwhile, you have people turning into like swans and you're like, how?
Okay, I didn't rate Monstrilio that low for logic.
That's true. That's true. Monstrilio is just like a perfect book though, so there's that.
All right,
Yeah.
and last but not least, enjoyment. What did you give it?
I give it a 6 out of 10.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
give it
I'm
a 10 out
sorry.
of 10.
I would not be surprised. All right. So my overall star rating is a 7.4, which is a 4 star, which is
Okay.
insane. Yeah. I was like, the fact that it's still so high is insane.
Do
Millie?
you think that it should be like more like a 3 star for you?
I think so. But here, I mean, tell us your star rating and then I will tell you my thought process.
Okay. Well, I gave it a 9.14, which is
Okay.
5 stars.
Hmm.
And yeah, this was definitely a 5 star read for me the first time around, and it continued
Period.
to be so upon reread.
Period. I love that for you. So
Mhm.
here is my justification for this rating. Like you kind of touched on it before we started recording. The writing, the atmosphere, the characters, the plot. Undeniably, this is a solid book. Undeniably, this is a solid book. Just it has all the makings for a solid book. But you do have to enjoy other aspects for it to remain captivating to you. Also, the language in this book. Okay, I had like I feel like I felt reading this, I felt the same way you felt reading This Is How You Lose a Time War.
Really?
Does that make yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you because
Mhm.
this will
Mhm.
help determine kind of like where we're at here.
Mhm.
Have you watched 2005 Pride and Prejudice
No.
with Keira Knightley?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. So when you
You have
watch
to
it,
specify it's a Keira Knightley one. I was
yeah,
like
when you watch it, do you keep up with the dialogue and all the backhandedness?
no. I'm in it for the aesthetics and the yearning glances and the like tiny little minuscule like body movement that I'm just like I'm in it for the physicality, I
You're
guess,
there
is what
for
it
the
is.
artistic noir of it.
Yes, yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, I'm there for the backhanded, shady, sassy, passive aggressive commentary that they all give each other because they
Okay.
can't like go right out and say it in that time period, so
Yeah,
everything is like double meaning.
that makes sense.
And it's just them shitting on each other all the time.
Okay.
So that's what this book had, and so I'm thinking like, okay, that
That
might be
might be
part of
it.
it. I really enjoyed all the dialogue, um and just how clever it was with the
Mhm.
writing in that regards,
Mhm.
because I could see the shadiness that was going on.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if that's not your thing, then yeah, that doesn't do
Yeah.
much.
I also think it being placed in the Regency period. So I have watched Bridgerton. That's not like the end all be all for Regency, whatever. But I have watched Bridgerton, and I have enjoyed it. I enjoyed like I enjoyed the aesthetics of it. I enjoyed it for what it was. And I honestly feel like this would make an excellent series or like a movie. Just visually, it would be a delight for the
Mhm.
eyes. But for some reason I could not like envision this, and I was having such a hard time such a hard time like picturing what was going on. Same with, but like I've tried other bodice rippers and same thing. I'm just like I can't like I need my romance to be contemporary is what I have learned. I need to be able to like self-insert, I guess, which I think is like part of it. Yeah, so that aspect, like the romance aspects, I was kind of like the fantasy aspects, I was like I understand why Millie suggested this. This is very like low reaching for
Yes.
fantasy. She's like Greta will be able to understand.
Okay, you know how I recommended
Oh
Sorcery of
my
Thorns
god.
for you as a good like
Yes.
YA fantasy
Yes.
beginner?
Yeah.
This is like
Hmm.
the equivalent for adult, I think.
And I totally get that. Like whenever I was reading this, I was like, I understand. Like, not that there's parallels, but like it's similar, not concepts, but it's like they're parallel in
The
like
vibe
their
is
level.
similar.
Yes, the vibe, the kind of mood you're setting, the like level set is pretty similar for both, like that kind of stuff. Like I understand, and this is giving a very much like a specific Ghibli vibe, which like
Hmm.
I totally get. Yeah,
Hmm.
and that mixed with my like just distraught feelings about reading right now is probably why I gave it a 4 star. And like, truth be told, I'm gonna go back, like I'm gonna read this again maybe towards the end of the year, because this feels like a like Christmassy read for me for some reason, like a holiday cozy read.
I
So
can see that.
I'm totally gonna give this a second chance again, because I feel like if I wasn't in this headspace, I'd be back, you know? But
Okay, that makes me happy.
okay. I was like, I know she's gonna be like, your rating is ass, but like honestly, like just like bottom line, without like it being my personal rating, character, atmosphere, writing, like plot, it's undeniably a good book. And like Goodreads thinks so too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to actually talk about the book.
Mhm.
What's in the book? So before we start, we're going to go into content warnings. So even though this is adult, I would say it's a pretty like light
Mhm.
adult book, but it does have mentionings of kidnapping of children, abuse, and brief war themes. It sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but I still stand by it.
Yeah.
Um, and the current Goodreads rating is at a 4.06, which is pretty good.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's very fair. Okay. Goodreads reading synopsis. Here we go. Ever since she was cursed by a fairy, Theodora Eddings has had no sense of fear or embarrassment, a condition which makes her prone to accidental scandal. Dora hopes to be quiet, sensible wallflower during the London season, but when the strange, handsome, and utterly uncouth Lord Saucier
Sorcier.
discovers her condition, she is instead drawn into dangerous and peculiar fairy affairs. If Dora's reputation can survive both her curse and her sudden condition with the least liked man in all of high society, then she may yet reclaim her normal place in the world. But the longer Dora spends with Elias Wilder, the more she begins to suspect that one may indeed fall in love even with only half a soul.
So, based on the synopsis,
Mm-hmm.
this is interesting because
Mm-hmm.
it makes it sound way more romantic.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case. Like, yeah, romance is a big part in it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more of just like two people who have like the worst first impression of each other and don't typically
Mm-hmm.
get along are working
Mm-hmm.
together
Mm-hmm.
to uncover a way to return this person's other half of her soul that's missing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then happen to fall in love on the way. Okay,
I
I do
love it.
recommend that when you
Uh-huh.
reread this book, listen
Uh-huh.
to it as an audiobook because
Okay.
you can just like hear their contempt for each other in the beginning quite evidently. So, starting off our cover to cover review of this book, during the Regency era, Dora Eloise Charity Eddings lives with her aunt and uncle, Lady and Lord Lockheed, and their daughter Vanessa in the English countryside after her parents' death. At age 10, Dora wanders into the woods and encounters the fairy Lord Hollowvale, who claims Dora's mother sold her to him and tries to steal her soul. However, Vanessa stabs him with a pair of iron scissors, and the fairy escapes with only half of Dora's soul. Dora has now heterochromatic eyes and is unable to feel and express most of her emotions. Her aunt says she is cursed and urges them to keep the secret to avoid bringing shame on the family. Fearing the fairy might come back, Vanessa gives the scissors to Dora for protection. Years later, when Dora is 19 and Vanessa's 18, Both have entered high society. Her aunt is trying to find a husband for Vanessa, but Vanessa does not want to get married and leave Dora behind. Dora has not been able to woo any suitors given her straightforward nature and bluntness. Aunt Frances wants to send Vanessa to London to find new suitors, but Vanessa only agrees if Dora comes with her. They stay at Lady Hayworth's house in London, and both ladies exclude Dora from preparations for future balls by leaving her at home alone. Dora decides to leave the townhome by herself. While exploring London, Dora ends up in a magic shop where she sees a glimpse of her future in a mirror. She's wearing a gown stained with what seems like to be blood. There she meets the royal magician known as Lord Sorcier, also his real name is Elias Wilder, and Lady Caraway's third son, physician Albert Lowe. The two are friends, but while Albert is kind, Lord Sorcier is blatantly rude to Dora. Dora snaps back at Lord Sorcier, and the two form a terrible first impression of each other. Albert is impressed by Dora's ability to verbally spar with Lord Sorcier and invites Dora to his family's ball. Dora's Aunt Frances and Lady Hayworth suggest, rather demand, she seduce Albert while Vanessa will charm his eldest brother Edward, set to inherit the title of Viscount. While Dora is getting ready for the ball, she realizes the outfit she's wearing is the same one from the vision. And when they enter the party, the ballroom is also the same one from the vision. She encounters Lord Sorcier and Albert at the ball. After Albert dances with Dora, he forces Lord Sorcier to dance with her as well. They begrudgingly dance together, and she tells him about the vision. While they try to speculate who might be trying to kill Dora, someone bumps into Lord Sorcier and he spills red punch on Dora, making the vision come true. Vanessa reveals Dora's secret to Lord Sorcier, hoping he might find a cure. He promises to help, but he's also preoccupied with a sleeping plague that is afflicting children in the workhouses. All right. So we have quite a lengthy intro. But essentially, we have Dora and Vanessa who are now in London to try to find husbands. And their first encounter with the other male characters of this story. Okay. What did you think of Dora as our main character?
I like Dora. Dora is, although we're placed in the Regency era, Dora seems like a very modern character, which I really appreciate. Honestly, her bluntness was much appreciated in comparison to everything around her. I really like this character. I think that this is, when I was reading it, I was like, I know why Millie likes this character. This is not a do nothing character. This is a character that's like take action and has isn't afraid to just like speak her mind. Granted, the escape for her being so straightforward is that she's like, she just has half a soul, you know? But I really appreciated that character trait. I thought it was really
Mhm.
nice. What did you
I
think
really like it.
upon a reread?
I like that we also had like a cousin relationship between
I
like Dora and Vanessa,
know.
and they very much gave like we're blood sisters. Like they each have half of a lolocket. Like they would just
They're
do
so
anything for
cute.
each other, and it was really endearing to see that kind of
It was
dynamic.
cute. Yeah, definitely. Vanessa was very much like, we always talk about like the sidekick characters and how a lot of the time they're just like kind of like there. But this felt like a very like sweet relationship. I liked. You're gonna make me raise my rating after this.
Yes.
It's gonna be the opposite.
Mhm.
Okay. First impression of our male characters. Um, Honestly, the relation, I mean, just like off the bat, Lord Sorcier was giving Howl
Mhm.
aggressively, and I love this little scheme that they already kind of had brewing when they're like, okay, you're gonna marry the eldest and it's gonna be perfect. It was very much giving, just like it was giving Bridgerton vibes and just trying to like climb this like social ladder that is,
Mhm.
the Regency era.
Yeah, because it's very evident from the beginning that like the aunt resents the fact that she has to take care of Dora because her
Yeah.
parents died. And like also on top of the fact that she has to take care of her, she's strange and unusual and is like potentially going to ruin like Vanessa's chances
Sis
and stuff like
chances.
that. Um, what I also found interesting with this book, and the author did confirm it, by the way,
Hmm.
Um, the book is supposed to be kind of a analogy of someone who has autism or is on the spectrum.
Wow. That is really good representation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh my God.
And so
Okay,
it
that
makes
makes
sense
sense.
because it's like she
Hmm.
has all of the emotional side of her taken out because of half her
Yeah.
soul being taken away. And she's left with a very like logical, pragmatic self and is so detached from anything that could potentially like ruin that. And I think that by contrast, probably Vanessa is a quote unquote like typical character, but they make
Yes.
her so emotional in the
Hmm.
book to really
Hmm.
show that contrast between her and
Hmm.
Dora, because Vanessa's just like, "Oh my word," and like like this all the time in the book, like, you know, like everything is a scandal. It's like, "Oh my god, there's a bug." Like, you know, all of that stuff. And yeah, I really like how it's written in a way that they made all the other characters sort of like
Hmm.
heightened in their
Hmm.
emotions
Hmm.
to make Dora more practical in that sense.
This is what I mean when I say the writing is just fucking fire. Like it's just
Hmm.
it's fire. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, part two?
Mhm.
Okay. Two, I feel like whenever I was reading the synopsis and no, whenever I was reading the yeah, the synopsis and like these sections, I feel like I need to read them in like the Bridgerton voice. You know, it only makes
Hmm.
sense. Okay, to elude the lady's strict control, Lord Sorcier fakes interest in Dora to spend time with her. He gives her an enchantment mirror which allows her to contact him. After having tested her, Lord Sorcier tells Dora that her divisionary, yeah,
Yeah.
how do you say that?
Divination, basically.
Okay. After having tested her, Lord Sorcier tells Dora that her divinationary powers are so strong she might be able to reach him through a common mirror. In the Enchanted Mirror, Dora sees Lord Sorcerer's past. He was badly injured during a Napoleonic War and was saved by Albert. Dora and Lord Sorcerer communicate in secret through the magic mirror. He insists she calls him Elias in private. He shares his theory. The other half, oh my god, the other half, Lord Hollowvale, stole this trap. Wait, stole is trapped in the fair. Okay, I see what you mean.
Hmm.
Okay, Dora and Lord Sorcerer communicate in secret through the magic mirror. He insists she calls him Elias in private. He shares his theory. The other half of her soul, Lord Hollowvale's soul, is trapped in the fairy land. The only way to cure her is to unite the two halves. At the same time, the mothers, quote unquote, continue to push Albert and Dora together by having them do charity work together along with the chaperone, Miss Jennings. Dora visits a workplace run by cruel George Ricks and is shocked by the living conditions. Albert helps the poor people who are constantly sick from these conditions. Albert calls Elias when he finds another victim of the plague, a young girl, and he brings her to an orphanage funded by Larry Caraway Society. Dora decides to help the magician in his search for a cure, interviewing children at different workhouses. Okay.
Okay.
This section kind of set up more of like what we're expecting, what
Hmm.
journey we're going to go on.
Yeah, because we do have the whole like kind of mystery element of them trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to combine the two halves. We have the romantic element of these two characters working together. And then we also have all of the like he has to pretend to be courting her,
Mm-hmm.
which just shocks everybody. And he also doesn't know how to do it well, and she has to basically teach him, being like, "You're supposed to bring me flowers," you know, like things like that, right? And it's just like, you can only dance with me twice. If you dance with me more than that, then it shows intent to court me. And it's like they have such strict bylaws here of like high society protocol and etiquette. And he's like, I don't care about any of this stuff. And she's like, neither do I, but I'm telling you, if you don't do it this way, people are going to assume this, this, and this. Um, and then also the fact that like Albert's in on it too, because he's like, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
know they're trying to push us together, so like let's pretend like, and go along with this, with the whole ruse. And then they have poor Miss Jennings, who has to just like accompany them at all times. And she's a chaperone, right? So she's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to like watch over and make sure there's no
Mm-hmm.
hanky panky. But they like purposely told her, they're like, no, you're supposed to give them alone time so she can seduce him. Let her hand touch him briefly, let them
Can
have
you
like a minute
imagine?
alone.
Can you imagine like Dora trying to meanwhile they're scheming? I
Hmm.
appreciate it so much. I do think okay, so this is also kind of like dating of convenience kind of,
Hmm.
which I just thought it was so cute. I don't know. The romance was, again, I wanted it to be like modern day very badly because all of these rules just seem ridiculous. But having like characters that echo that sentiment, I was kind of like, I can like, it's like I feel like I'm being seen on paper. That's what I mean when I say like like Dora specifically seems like a very, very modern character that was
Hmm.
plopped into this like world and is having to learn how to navigate it, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
my
I
god,
agree
Benji is
because it
on
seems
one.
it really is. Oh, it's
Yeah.
because Mouty went away with Zio and Benji's butt hurt.
He needs his baby.
Hmm.
Oh
Give me
no.
a sec.
Yeah.
Okay. Whee!
Oh, you were
Okay.
saying you agree?
Yes. And also, one of the things that I really like is that all of the main characters pretty much are kind of on the same page about this modernness. They're like, yeah, we know what the rules are. We don't necessarily agree with them. We like go along with them just like to keep the charade. Um,
Mhm.
but I like that there was just that commonality of the fact that they're like, yeah, these rules are stupid. Like they don't need to be in place.
I was gonna say, I will say that them communicating through the mirror. Okay. I will say, and I was silent, is so cute. I want a magic mirror. I want a magic mirror real bad. Okay.
All right, so Albert invites Dora's family to a private dinner where Elias barges in and angrily discusses social injustices offending Albert and his mother. After he storms out, Dora goes to chastise him and there we go. After he storms out, Dora goes to chastise him and forces him to apologize. Lady Caraway views all of this and forgives him, allowing them to all spend the night due to the rain. Lady Caraway tells her she wished Dora could have become her daughter in law, but sees now why Albert does not pursue her. Dora tries to correct her, but she believes that Elias and Dora have true feelings for each other. Dora and Elias find each other in the middle of the night at the Caraway Manor. Using magic, they sneak out to the gardens to have a midnight stroll. Elias tells her his deepest secret. He's actually part fairy and escaped his land due to the fairy's cruelty, but found himself in an equally cruel place. The next day, while Dora is translating a text for Elias, Albert, Miss Jennings, and Vanessa visit the warehouses to interview the children. Miss Jennings gets in an altercation with George Ricks and he hits her. Albert hits him back. Dora and Elias grow closer at the next dance, while Edward proposes to Vanessa. Dora's aunt decides to send her back to the countryside to prevent her causing a scandal. Dora tries to reach Elias through a common mirror, but she ends up in the fairy's land, where she discovers that her other half, which she calls Theodora, has been trapped with Lord Hollowvale all these years. Lord Hollowvale reveals that Dora's mother sold her firstborn for fairy gold before she was even born. Now that he has both halves, he schemes to combine the two souls to make one perfect English daughter. Dora and Theodora are trapped in his manor together. Theodora is the emotional side of Dora. Theodora helps Dora sneak out to Lord Hollowvale's charity house, where he keeps the souls of other children he has bought. It turns out these are the children who have fallen under the sleeping plague back in England. The children are held captive by Lord Hollowvale, who cruelly educates them following what he believes to be English norms. He tells Dora that the children were sold to him by George Ricks. He returns with a new baby that has been sold to him. Dora hears Elias's voice in the distance. He believes that Dora has fallen under the same sleeping plague as the children. Dora tries to communicate with Elias and is able to pass on the message that she is actually trapped in the fairylands. She confesses that she's in love with him, but then she's captured by Lord Hollowvale again. All right. So going back, because there was a lot that happened in this part here. Okay. So going back, one
Mhm.
of my favorite scenes in this entire book is when Elias, who is sleep deprived and in just like a really bad mental state, crashes this party and goes off on a tirade because he's um not prompted, but like poked at it.
Mhm.
And he makes a hissy fit and throws a scene and is very rude. And she chases after him and she's just like, yeah, this is unacceptable behavior, you need to go back and apologize, and just like completely scolds him and reprimands him. And he is someone who everyone in society kind of fears, and they're scared of him and they don't talk to him and they're afraid of confrontation with him, and she has no problem putting him in his place, and she does it in front of Lady Caraway. And I'm just like, chef's kiss. I love that scene.
This is what I mean when I say that like Dora is a character that like I mean, again, it's really obnoxious. It bothers me that a little bit of like this character, like the way that she is because you know she is missing half of her soul or whatever. But like I just I love how she is the way that she is, and I know the entire time they're like on a mission to try to like find this remaining half and like figure out what happened to
But you
her.
don't want it
But
to
it
happen.
feels, yeah, I don't want it to happen. I'm like, this isn't like like I don't know. It's like, yes, like I want you to have this sense of understanding, but Dora is just absolutely wonderful and absolutely just like incredible the way that she is, and we don't need it, which goes back to what you just told me and makes so much sense why they made the character so absolutely lovable, but just the way that she is. I okay, it makes so much sense that this is like an analogy for someone who is on the autism spectrum. That okay. That make
And
yeah, you
I
clarified a lot.
I was thinking to myself while I was reading it, I was like, it kind of feels like she has autism. But then I was like, but is that right or not? Because it has to do with like magic. But then I went back and
Right.
on Goodreads, there's a review by the author, and it's like this whole essay where she's like
Oh my
explaining like
god.
different things that people had questions about with the book, and that's like a huge part that she was like clarifying for people.
Oh,
So I
that's
do highly
awesome.
recommend checking that out. But one of the other things that I noticed is that like Dora herself believes that she's not good enough because she only has half a soul. And
Mhm.
even though she's like developing feelings for Lord Sorcier, she's like, well, he couldn't possibly like me because I only have half a soul. I'm only half a person. I'm not like a well rounded person like Vanessa. And so she, like, in her mind, there's like no realm of possibility in which someone could love her for who she is. And it's so
Hmm.
sad. And it's just like, can't you see, like, he's 100% falling in love with you exactly for who you are,
Yeah.
because you're like the only person that he can have honest conversations with, who puts
Yeah.
him in his place, like, who's like there for him, who understands him. It's just like, it's like, you're perfect just the way you are.
That's such a good. This feels like it could very honestly this book when I was reading it I was like it kind of teeters the line of like this could be YA, this
Mm-hmm.
could be like a very mature YA.
Yeah.
But I yeah, oh my god, okay, that makes a lot
Oh.
more sense. I'm gonna have to read that essay. I will find it and I will link it in the description below so
Mm-hmm.
that y'all can check it out if you're interested.
Another thing that's like a huge part of the book in terms of like the background, like themes and messages is going on,
Hmm.
is that they're talking about all of these like workhouses, you know, which is like
Yes. Hmm.
the historical accuracy of the time period
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And I find it really interesting because the book is talking a lot about like social responsibility
Hmm.
and like standing up for these things and trying to enact change.
Hmm.
And a lot of like Dora's frustrations that come with like Vanessa, which I found really interesting, was that she was just like, Vanessa's this kind soul. She's this kind, wonderful, nice person, but she didn't give a shit about
Hmm.
anything that was happening with the warehouses because she wasn't directly seeing it and she wasn't directly experiencing it. And I feel like that is so important because that happens like all the time in like real life in a day-to-day basis, is that like
Yeah.
oftentimes people don't care about certain issues if they don't pertain to them directly. And I really like that the author was like commenting on that, because then it's like as soon as Vanessa went and saw the atrocities for herself, she's like, "Oh my god, we have to do something about it." And Dora was like, "Yeah, but like you knew bad stuff was happening. You didn't need to see it to know that it was bad. Why did it take you
Mhm.
having to go there to see it in person for you to realize that you had to care about other humans?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Oh, snap, snap."
Oh, the commentary. Oh, the
Uh-huh.
commentary is commentarying. Yeah. I mean, and then like it also end up directly affecting her with Dora being like in a similar situation, and like it's kind of like an alternate reality of what could have happened to her. Um
Mhm.
which is just so good. Okay. Wow, my rating is gonna okay. Okay. Part 4. Okay.
Mhm.
Lord Hollowell organizes a ball to provoke strong emotions in Dora and thus reunite the two halves. At the ball, Dora is surrounded by guests that are invisible to her until they are introduced to her, and she is threatened that if she makes eye contact with anyone, her eyes will be plucked out. Dora ends up dancing with a fae. Oh my god. Dora ends up dancing with a fairy named Lord Blackthorn, who is fascinated with quote unquote English norms. She is then introduced to Lord Longshadow, who she realizes is Elias in disguise. As they dance, Elias sneaks Dora her iron scissors. She tells her that she needs to use the scissors to cut the magic string connecting her to the other children and the other children to Lord Hollowell. Elias claims that he has come to marry Dora and challenge Lord Hollowell in a duel. Instead of cutting the magic string, Dora stabs Lord Hollowell with her scissors. Theodora claims the title of Lady Hollowell. This makes her tied to the fairy land, and she vows to take care of the children now in her care. However, this now prevents Dora from reuniting her soul. Dora wakes up in the human world in her regular body. Since Lady Hot Oh my god. Since Lady Hayworth no longer has a room for Dora and Aunt Frances is still trying to send her back to the countryside, Lady Caraway offers to host Dora. After seeing Albert and Miss Jennings interact, Dora realizes that they have feelings for each other. George Ricks is arrested for using black magic. Elias proposes to Dora. Squeal is included in the notes. Okay,
Their
so
proposal was so cute.
okay, so how are we feeling about this ending? How are we feeling about, Dora deciding that she's just gonna stab oh my god, Lord
Hollow
what's his
Veil.
name? Hollowvale instead. Yeah, how are
Yeah.
we?
Okay. Um, yeah, I was surprised by this because I was just like, okay, I don't want the two halves to reunite, but the whole
Right.
point is for them to reunite. So
Right.
like how are we going to get out of it? And this what
Mhm.
I felt like was a perfect like wonderful cop out that was written into it, because it's just
Mhm.
like, okay, now the emotional side, the Theodora side is staying in fairy realm. She's now in charge, is like basically a noble woman in society and is
Mhm.
able to do things a little bit differently. And now Dora is free to go back to the human world and she could just be herself. And even though she sees this as like mission failed and she basically like sacrificed reuniting the halves for like the greater good,
Yeah.
it's like, no, this is perfect, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And Elias is like, yeah, I went there to ask to marry you and I still stand by that. And I'm like, I was so here
We
for it.
love a man who's 10 toes down. Oh, I
Yep.
love it. No,
Oh,
it's
okay,
so
we also
cute.
have the epilogue. So in the epilogue, Albert proposes to Miss Jennings and they get married and they live a quiet life in the countryside, which like good for them. Good
Yes.
for them. And then Dora and Elias end up getting married and they open an orphanage with the help of Miss Jennings and Lady Caraway. And it's like, okay, that makes perfect sense. I could totally see them opening up another
Mhm,
orphanage
mhm.
and just basically living their married life child free and just like helping all of these children in the orphanage and just charity work and like good for them. The thing that kind of surprised me though is that it's alluded at the very end of the book that after a couple of years, Dora and Elias disappear completely from society. And then in fairy realms, Lady Hollowvale has a husband and they reside in the fairy realm. And rumor has it they use their magic to enact vengeance on those who take advantage of the poor. So that I was a little bit surprised by, that they chose to disappear from English society in the human realm
Mhm.
and go live in the fairy realm. So
Okay.
that part did kind of surprise me, but at the same time, them enacting vengeance doesn't.
Does it? Okay. I the epilogue was just very, it was a very cute like bow to wrap the whole thing up. It feels like everybody got their comeuppance and everybody got kind of like the story you wanted. This book really just, the ending, I'm telling you, yesterday I was like, yes, a happily ever after, like a true happily ever after for like what everybody kind of deserved. So I really enjoyed that. It was very full circle. I do have questions regarding,
Mhm.
have you, is this your first time reading the other partner books?
So, yeah, so I've only read this first book and this is my
Okay.
first time rereading it. So, the second and third book are not like direct continuation. So, the
Okay.
second book is actually starring like a new female character
Okay.
who, if you recall, there's Lord Blackthorn, who is
Yes.
that fairy that she's
Hmm.
dancing with before Elias
Yeah.
comes to save her. So the human for the second book, she makes a deal with Lord Blackthorn because she's in love with like this like noble guy, and she's like a maid in his house, and she like is in love with him. So she makes a deal with this fairy,
Oh.
and he helps her like try to like woo him over so they get married, and in return she has to stitch 10,000 stitches into his jacket. And so it's kind of
Oh.
like a Rumpelstiltskin almost kind of
Yeah.
retelling. And then
Yeah.
the third book has to do with Elias and Dora's adoptive daughter, because one of the children that they rescued was like a, I think she was like a 14-year-old girl or something like that. Like she was a
Hmm.
teenage girl, and she was like the last child that like fell asleep. And so they rescued her and they like formally adopted her. So that's her story of when she's like an adult later on for the third book.
Okay. Okay. So we really have just Dora and Elias kind of disappearing into like the sunset.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna have cameos in the next two books, but it's kind of
Okay.
like no, their story is like is
Ended.
told. It's a nice little
Okay.
nice little bow, like you said.
That's lovely. Okay. Honestly, after this recap, I swear, oh my god, these recaps either go one or two ways. After the recap, I'm like, wow, this was actually significantly worse than I remember it being. Or wow, Millie just like demystified everything that I was confused about. And
Yeah.
like it makes sense now.
Mhm. I think probably where the intrigue
Man.
dropped a little bit for me was
Hmm.
actually when she gets stuck in the fairy realm, because that's the
Yeah.
part that I had like the least interest
That's
in. I was like,
interesting.
I loved
Okay.
when they were like in the human realm and just dealing, I guess, with their contemporary issues,
Yeah.
about things. Um, but I will say, Lord Hollowvale was such a good character. Like, was such a good villain. He was
Hmm.
so ridiculous, and that the way that he was written was just like, good job. Good job.
I was gonna ask, how did you feel about the meddling mothers in this book?
Oh my
Because I
god, they
know
were so
you love an over the top, like
I do.
nosy
I
character.
do. I do. Like they were so frustrating, but at the same time, their scheming in the beginning, I was just like the mental gymnastics they were doing to try to like get everything going. Like the fact that they're just like, okay, you have to seduce Albert because we need Vanessa to seduce Edward, but like she can't go after Edward until Albert is taken. And like the mother for Albert has a liking to you. So now she's going to be like more favorable to us. And like it's just all the connivingness that's going on, and also the fact that they're just like, yeah, Albert would be good for Dora because he's like damaged, and like you're like not a lady in high society, and like you're not a favorite, so like he's not gonna get anybody, so like the mom will just be happy that he has someone. I'm like,
Hmm.
and she's like, he lost his arm in the war defending you guys, like, but then yeah, he comes back from the war being like a veteran,
Hmm.
and everybody's like,
Hmm.
oh, he's damaged now. And it's like, dude, he has a silver arm now, and he spends his life like right now like fighting for the poor and helping the poor. It's like these people in high society.
It's so good. The way that actual issues are being depicted in this book, and just the ridiculousness that you kind of have, like, so you have like Dora and Elias who, and like Albert, who like provide a very like grounded perception of a lot of these social issues, where it's like physical or mental or like just abilities that what am I trying to say? Like, yeah, essentially differences. And like these characters, Dora, Elias, Albert, provide a very like grounded perception of them, comparing to like these other like high society characters who are really just so either don't care or have such a like skewed perception of what this means and how this like relates to your self-worth. It's so nice and refreshing to read this, and you're like, okay, it kind of makes the crazy people seem crazier with the way that they're written and their actions. And
Mhm.
that sometimes you need that like
That
difference
validation.
to, yes, yeah, but also just like the way, I mean, I'm talking about like the way that it's written. You need that like difference to kind of like, oh yes, this like feeling this way and acting this way is indeed ridiculous, and it's kind of played out to be like for comedy's sake, right? Like these are kind of like comedic reliefs just out of the sheer just insanity that comes out of your mouth, which is very like, it's very well written in that regard, and I
Mhm.
appreciated that a lot.
I think one of the other things I really liked that they touched on was
Hmm.
that Lord Sorcerer, like Elias's whole thing is that
Hmm.
he is trying so desperately to make the world a better place, and he just
Hmm.
has no patience for the rest of the humans around him because he's just like
Hmm.
these frivolous people have all this power and privilege and are doing nothing with it. And now I'm a part of this like high society because
Yeah.
of my help in the war, and I was like
Hmm.
promoted, to be an elite member of society. And I have all this power and privilege, and I'm trying to do something to help, but it's just me, and I'm feeling so dejected from
Hmm.
like trying to save everybody in the world and not
Hmm.
being able to. And Dora is just reminding him, being like, there's nothing wrong with trying to save the world, but you shouldn't do it at your expense. Like, don't burn the candle on the other end. Like,
Hmm.
it's okay to sit down for a good meal because you need
Hmm.
food to help keep you
Hmm.
going. It's okay to stop working to sleep, because he was just not taking care of his basic human needs, in
Hmm.
that like need, like that feeling of guilt of not being able to save everybody around him.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was just like a really good reminder of being like, yeah, you can still fight for what you believe in, but don't do it
Hmm.
at the expense of yourself because that doesn't do anybody any
Do
good.
anything. Hmm. Yeah, there's that. You just beautifully reminded me of this one quote. Give me a second. I'm trying to find it.
Mhm.
Okay. It is this quote. Um, it is regarding the AIDS crisis. And it goes, bury your friends in the morning, protest in the afternoon, and dance all night. Meaning you need to take care of yourself in order to fight for what you believe in and in order to continue humanity. Because at the end of the day, those small little acts of like of self-preservation, those in and of itself are small acts of resistance against the oppressive powers at be. And you just mentioning that just reminded me exactly of that. That is a quote. It's from an article. I can't really find the original quote. But if you look up that quote, it was said by some, I don't even know who it was said by, honestly. But
Yeah.
essentially it was in reference to the AIDS crisis. This quote is said to originate during the AIDS crisis, at a time where queer people fought for their rights to exist while the world turned a blind eye. They buried their lovers, their friends, and their families, and their mentors who were killed by the plague that the government refused to acknowledge. And I just felt like that is I mean, today's June 1st. So happy Pride Month, everybody.
Woo! Happy Pride Month.
But if this that very much feels like a message that needs to be internalized by a lot of people who have very similar beliefs to ours, that it's important to take care of yourselves, take care of each other before you, because you can't go on, you can't continue unless you are, taking care at home first. Again, it's like you have to put on your
Oxygen mask first.
oxygen mask, yeah, before you can help others. So
Yeah,
that feels like a good place to end it. That
it
was
does.
good. Millie, what do we have coming up next?
All right. So next up, we have Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. Um,
I'm
I am
so
I am
excited.
very curious about this book because, like I had just said, okay, I need
Mhm.
some wins. Okay, I need some books to like revolutionize
Girl,
me, and I
girl.
have a good feeling about this one. I don't want to put all my eggs in the basket. I
No,
have a good
you
feeling about
can.
this one.
I want you to go into this excited because I know you are going to love this. Like, I know you are going to love this. This book, I feel, is like the perfect combination of what Millie looks for in a book and what I look for in the book. As in, it is,
Ooh.
yes, yes. I feel like next episode is going to be freaking fire, you guys, because this book has a very large ensemble. Okay, large ensemble. It has shenanigans.
I
Okay.
like shenanigans.
Delusional characters.
I like delusional
Okay.
characters.
Okay. 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 Dramatic characters. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Overly dramatic. Like, yes, those kind of characters. It is kind of like a mystery, like a crime thrillery mystery. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. But it also has incredibly valuable incredibly valuable life lessons. It has a whole lot of soul and a whole lot of heart. You will cry,
I'm
but you
ready
will
to cry.
also giggle. You will also giggle and laugh and be like, like, wow, it's. I'm so excited. This is gonna get us out of our reading slump. I will be rereading this, but I
Let's
know it's gonna be a
manifest
good one.
this. Let's
And
manifest this.
if for some reason this flops, I'm gonna be so.
It's like that's it. That's the last episode of the podcast. We're done.
Oh my god. No, I'm so sure you're going to absolutely love this book. And if you have not read it, everybody should read this book cuz this book, again, I'm telling you, these like Scandinavian authors, they just know the way to my heart. It is fierce. Oh my god. But then after that, Millie, what do we have after that?
We are going to be sitting down not to review a book, but we're doing the first half of 2025 reading recap because, babe, we're almost at half the year. That's crazy. And so we're going to do a recap of like statistically like all the type of books we have read, what we've
Mhm.
liked, we haven't liked, how our year has been so far. We've kind of previewed a little bit so far, but we got one
Mhm.
more month to go, so that could change some things.
That could
But
change
yeah, you can
things.
join us for our recap of the first
That
half
is
of the year.
honestly that is honestly also a very good way to um get like view into other books that we don't talk about in the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, because our our interests are broad on
Yeah.
both sides. So if you're like, ooh, what else is Millie into that I might like, what else is Greta into that I might like, that would be a great episode to check out. All right, we did it. Millie, where can people find you?
You guys can find me at my YouTube channel, Into the Nook, for all reading vlogs, secret TBRs, reading shenanigans that I do. And you guys can also follow me at my Instagram at Into the Nook Realm. Greta, where can they find you?
You can find me all over the internet at Greta's Favorite Things. Primarily on Twitch. I stream on Twitch Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. PST. And it is so much fun. We have been playing this dress up game called it's like an adventure dress up game. It's
Oh,
like a Barbie fairy game, like, but like heightened. It's called Infinity Nikki. Absolutely love it. But we're starting a new farming sim. So like I'm just diving deep into the cozy world of video games, and it's so much fun. Yeah. So we're starting that on Wednesday. I keep on saying Tuesday, but on Wednesday. Very exciting. All right. We will see you in 2 weeks with anxious people. We're putting all of our baskets in anxious people.
Not our eggs, all of the baskets. All of the baskets in the wagon are going for anxious people.
Yes, everything is going in for anxious people. And then after that, for our half of 2025 reading recap. All right, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.